Hello and welcome to the second Energy Rethinking Show, where today we'll be focusing on the issue of how and why companies should develop sustainability strategies. Over the last few years, there's been a huge surge of interest in the issue of sustainability in business, and today it's actually quite rare to find any large company that doesn't have a sustainability strategy in place. But what actually is sustainability, and why are companies so keen on it? Well, joining me here in the studio today are three esteemed guests to discuss just that. With us is Mick Bremans, who is the chairman of Ecover International. Kelly Granger is the sustainability manager for Interface Floor in the UK and Ireland. And Jonathan Waits is the senior director at the Waits Group. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mick, before I come to you first, let's just have a quick look at what you do at Ecover.
Ecover is producer of sustainable household products in the washing, cleaning and personal care segments. And we are, I think, a pioneer and an innovator in our industry and a leader in sustainable practices, I think. Sustainability is a process, I think. It's not a policy or a procedure that you enter, but it's a process that you enter. And once you start on that path, it's a journey. And basically, the company started back in 1980, so we started even 7 years before the Brundtland Commission came up with the definition of sustainability. And so I think it was a natural evolution and a process in which we grew over the years. But it developed, of course, from starting with phosphate-free cleaning products to the products that we make today, which are completely based on renewable ingredients and more complex than how it started. Of course, we started with the products to actually improve those and make those as sustainable as possible. But then you start integrating the aspects of sustainability in the rest of the company. And so, for instance, we constructed our own factories where we produce our products. And those are ecological or buildings that we build to actually produce our products. And you actually further integrate it in all aspects of your business, in all aspects of the management of your business also. It's entering a process, and that is the biggest challenge, I think, to continue and to actually be motivated to continue on that path. The benefits of trying to be a sustainable business are multiple. I think there is the low-hanging fruit where you can get some economical benefits from trying to reduce waste or trying to recycle or reuse products or materials. That's what I would call low-hanging fruit, where you easily get the benefits or the economical benefits out of it. But I think in the long term, it also assures the future value of the company and the future prospects of the company. And that, I think, is ensured by the fact that we've chosen to go the sustainable way. As a business, we will stay committed and devoted to try to improve our consumers' lifestyles with healthy and sustainable products. That's definitely our goal and our objective for the future still. And I think it's the only path forward. I think all businesses in the end will have to become sustainable. And we want to remain a pioneer and an innovator in that business.
So, Mick, some very interesting stuff that you're doing there. Ecover, of course, is very well known already for its environmentally friendly products. It's a very strong brand. How did this all come about?
Well, actually, when the company started in 1980, we started to make environmentally sound products. And so I guess we had a little bit of a head start. But afterwards, we first of all tried to optimize our products to make them, of course, performant and at the same time safe for the consumer and safe for the environment. And then later on, we started to integrate those environmental considerations, or let's say sustainability considerations, further in the way we operate our business. So when we needed to expand our manufacturing capacity, we built an ecological factory. Later on, we focused on our processes, on reducing the energy consumption, waste consumption and so on. So I think it overall grew into the company as a natural evolution. But of course we only started to really talk about sustainability when the definition of sustainability was actually made back in '87 by the Brundtland Commission.
Mick, thanks very much indeed for that. We'll come back to you obviously in a moment. Kelly, can I turn to you? I'd like to introduce you, Kelly Granger from Interface Floor. Let's have a look at what you're doing regarding sustainability.
We were actually one of the first companies to publicly commit to sustainability. And as a leading manufacturer of carpet, it's actually quite a big step for us to take, because carpet, generally speaking, is petro-intensive in terms of materials and energy. But through radical thinking and collective action, sustainability is actually part of our DNA. We made a decision that we would take a scientific approach to understanding the impacts of our business. And through using life cycle assessment, we actually saw that the largest single contributor to environmental impacts was actually in the nylon within our carpet, almost 50%, which is huge. So one of our biggest challenges was, well, how do we decrease our reliance on raw materials? This year we've worked with one of our key suppliers in understanding how you recycle nylon in the first place. We've actually benefited from this by producing a product this year that is 100% recycled nylon. We're also running a process which is the first, which is about recycling carpet tiles. So it's the first closed loop recycling process for carpet tiles in the country. The key elements to our strategy are that the impetus came from the leader at the very top, creating that catalyst. We created a goal, we set a goal, and we're very bold. We built in sustainability into our core business model. We engaged all of our employees across every business sector, across every department, and we really understood what the basic impacts of our product were. We set about trying to make those better, and we set about trying to reduce the impact of our customers as well. So the benefits to Interface Floor of having this sustainability strategy and going down the journey of having sustainable products are numerous. From a doing good point of view, we're doing the right thing. That's the first reason we took the strategy. Secondly is a competitive advantage, a real competitive advantage out there in the market. There's cost reductions, and also it's about the people that you employ. It's about talent management, it's about talent attraction. So we attract people to our business that maybe wouldn't have normally come to work for a carpet tile manufacturer because of our strategy, because of where we're looking to go and our vision.
Well, Kelly, it's obvious from that Interface Floor is doing an awful lot on sustainability. But what are the benefits you're finding that are accruing from this?
Okay, I guess if I touch on one of the key benefits, I guess from sustainability for us personally, is about cost cutting. It's reducing the costs of your business. I guess sustainability at a basic level is about doing things more efficiently. It's about looking at your raw materials, looking at your energy, your water. It's about looking at the processes in your business and making them more efficient. And if you make those more efficient, you're obviously reducing the waste that your business produces. And all of those things added together add to a huge amount of cost for businesses every year. So if you can reduce those, you're cutting costs from your bottom line, which is actually a huge benefit to the business. And it means that you can then go on and invest in other things within your business and drive forward your vision of sustainability or what you're trying to achieve. For us, since 1994 when we started, we've got avoided waste costs of approximately $438 million over the 16-year period, which shows you just what you can achieve by being more efficient.
Kelly, thank you very much indeed. Obviously, massive benefits there. Jonathan, if I can turn to you as well. You, of course, are a Senior Director at the Waits Group. Likewise, let's have a look and see what you're doing.
The Waits business overwhelmingly is a project-based, site-based business, and we're in communities. On any given day, there's probably 10,000 operatives working on Waits sites right across the UK in such a vast range of buildings, from prisons to schools to private houses, public housing, offices. So we're in a really good position to learn but also to influence about the topic of sustainability, and more specifically within that, the topic of energy efficiency. Because we're in business to serve the needs of our customers, and our customers have universally got challenges around building performance, and in particular around energy performance. And efficiency is centre stage in that respect. In our retail business, we work with the likes of Marks & Spencer's, who are an established thought leader in the area of sustainability with their Plan A programme. We've just, for example, delivered a store for them in Sheffield, which is a groundbreaking store for them in terms of its building performance and energy performance. So we learn from that, but we can take that learning, that means, to our other customers too. And it's not just Marks & Spencer's. In the commercial office arena, we're working with Stanhope. They've got a big fund looking at green refurbishment of buildings, which we're very interested in, because it's not just about new build, it's also about the huge array of existing buildings and how we can convert them and make them more energy efficient. So working with partners like that does develop thinking and learning for everybody. So there's a number of small examples, but they're indicative, I think, of the kind of opportunity that we have at Waits to make a difference. We view our role as owners in the company as custodians for the next generation. And that's quite important, because that ripples out, and it does, I think, profoundly affect the way we think about buildings and what we do around buildings and buildings sustainability. So when we think about family strategy or enterprise strategy, we think about the next 25 or 30 years. It's not a typical strategy time frame would be 3 to 5, but we're used to thinking much longer term about what kind of organisation is it that we really want to hand on to the next generation. And it will be different to the organisation that we have now, in the same way that the one we inherited from the third generation was different to the one they inherited in turn from the second.
Of course, that's all fantastically interesting, but what do you think are the main things that you've learnt from introducing those strategies?
I would say there's 3 things that we've learned. The first thing is that sustainability is not mystical. Actually, it's quite practical, and it's quite accessible and doable. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be that we found that developing a sustainability strategy actually was really consistent with the long-term view that we tend to take in the company anyway. So there were quite a few things around our long-term view that were already in place, if you like, which was encouraging, and I think gave us some encouragement early on. The third thing I would say is that there are some really significant short-term gains, and again, that gave us encouragement and momentum in the process.
So that's the view from the Wates Group. But if I can just widen this out to all 3 of you now. I mean, we often do hear an awful lot about sustainability in the media every day, one way or another. It's terms we hear like greening business, recycling, solar panels on roofs, etc. The list goes on. But what does, for each of you, what does sustainability actually mean for your company and its ethos? Mick?
Well, actually, the definition of sustainability says that we have to be able to satisfy our needs today without compromising future generations, the ability of future generations to do actually the same. And I think what it does is that you focus completely on your core business. You actually analyze what you're doing on your entire business. You start with your raw materials, how they're being sourced, how there's even eventually being transformed, and how you finally make a product and what effect that product eventually has then on the environment afterwards. So I think you look at the whole of your business, you analyze the whole of your business, and by doing so you actually find the low-hanging fruit that gives you very nice benefits in doing so, but also I think you get a better view on your business and you become more innovative, more creative about what you're doing.
Kelly, is that a view you share?
Yeah, I think sustainability means different things to different businesses. Certainly for us, sustainability is at the core of our business. Obviously, with the vision with Ray Anson set way back in 1994, it's been adopted very early on. Sustainability is actually embedded into our core business, so it's not a bolt-on, it's sort of built in. So it's what we do every day. So I guess you'd call it business as usual or sustainability as usual, I guess you could call it. So for us, it's just a way of working. That's the way our company operates, and it's about being a better company. Still being a business, let's not sort of take that away. It's still about sort of trying to grow your business and be successful, but it's about doing it in a better way and making sure that your business has longevity so that you're around in 20, 30, 40 years' time.
And Jonathan, from the Wates Group point of view, that you find that sustainability very neatly fits into the corporate ethos, if you like.
It's completely intrinsic to who we are. And I think it's sharpened our own sense and clarity about who we are as well, which is incredibly important for all of our stakeholders. So if we think about our staff and staff engagements, I'm sure the guys would agree that as an agenda, it does chime with the way people are increasingly starting to think about how responsible we need to be as custodians of the planet for the next generation. That's important. Our customers, as we work in the built environment, we have a really significant opportunity to do things differently. Now, some of that is driven by clients, so we need to do that to conform and compete. But actually some of it's where Wates Group shares its learning from projects that we've delivered for forward-thinking clients and improves the agenda going forward more broadly.
Of course, it's all very laudable, quite rightly so, but in economically straitened times, many companies are under intense daily pressures of, in all sorts of directions, particularly smaller ones. I mean, why should they find either the time or the money, frankly, to invest in this?
I guess if I would take this question, I would say maybe the question shouldn't be about why should they, it's why wouldn't they? To my point earlier on, if you look at the very basic principles, it's about being more efficient as a business. So in these times of austerity, where cost-cutting measures are, you'll see them in sort of abundance, it's about how can you make your business work more effectively, more efficiently, saving you cost, and at the same time building and growing your business. So that's a key point. It's not just all about investment. I think it's about looking at your business and working out how you can work better. And it talks about reducing all of the costs that I mentioned earlier on.
Mick, is that how you would see it, particularly for smaller companies?
Well, I would totally agree with it, and I think it's also continuous innovation and change, and any business, small or large, needs innovation and needs creativity within its business. And I think also, I mean, it's better to anticipate and wait for legislation to change things. So, and that is going to happen anyway, because normally the legislation on environmental issues, on social issues, is getting stricter and stricter. And so I think you better anticipate and prepare your business before that happens.
So Jonathan, the message seems to be this really, it's not a question of an add-on, this is absolutely essential for a company no matter what your size.
Yeah, I think there's a real consensus that it is essential. Perhaps that's not surprising coming from a panel like us. I would just stress though that it is not mystical, and there are some really quite simple steps. In terms of the issues around limited time, that is a real issue in today's very, very competitive environment. Financing some of this stuff also gets in the way sometimes, and they're understandable barriers. But I would just urge not just small businesses but all businesses really to first of all generate an understanding of the agenda and build some consensus around it, and then do simple management things. Put a plan together, allocate resource to it, and have measurable outcomes. And I think that, like it did with us when we first started getting organised, we set targets and we achieved those targets, and we found that actually there was benefits to the bottom line, which was a surprise to many people because they did see it to start with as an add-on. And when you're moving large numbers or even small numbers of people, you've really got to bring them with you in an authentic way. It's not something that, like most initiatives, if it's imposed from the top down, sometimes you're doing it at the same level of buy-in and the same level of impact.
And Kelly, from Interface Floor's perspective, if a company is thinking of doing this and isn't perhaps as far down the road as any of your businesses, is there help available? How do companies go about setting up a sustainability strategy as just outlined?
I think the first key thing you need to do is you need to have someone that leads from the top. Someone that comes up with a vision, comes up with a goal, is bold about inspiration, the impetus, building that sort of catalyst that says, right, this is what we want to get to. Yeah. That's the starting block, I think. And as I said, having a goal, being quite bold about that goal. So sort of a longer term goal rather than just, in a year's time, 3 years' time, etc. I think there is help around. I think, from companies such as ourselves on the panel, yes, we've been doing it a longer period of time with larger businesses, but there's almost a framework now. There's almost a help in just having that framework to say, okay, this is how these companies have done it. We won't just learn from their successes, but we can also learn from the things that they didn't do well. And I think that as businesses, that's what we've done along the way. We haven't just learned from things that worked well, we've also learned things that didn't. So that's a key point.
And Mick, from Ecovair's perspective, what lessons have you learned? You've made a real brand proposition around the strategy, but what could smaller companies learn from your journey in sustainability?
Well, I think choosing the path of sustainability gave us a reason to be. I think if we stand today in the market, in a very competitive market of detergents, household products, I think the fact that we've chosen for the sustainable way is our reason to be. And today, I think we can easily say that we are a leader in that segment of the market. So I think it was extremely important for us to survive in this very competitive market. But of course, you run into barriers and you run into obstacles. But there's also the obvious benefits that you take. And I think for us, looking at where we come from and where we want to go, it's the only way to go.
And Jonathan, what are those difficulties? Mick talks about barriers. Of course there are with any particular move into a new field. What are the difficulties that you identify most? What are your greatest hindrances, if you like?
I'd say competing priorities.
Yep.
A lack of clarity and understanding about what was achievable and whether that was a worthwhile journey compared to all the other competing priorities that we have to deal with in business. As I said at the beginning, in Waite, some of this stuff naturally came to the surface because there were things we were doing around the business that were already quite sustainable activities, which was very helpful. So early on, we did get some of those. It is a bit of a cliche, but getting some early wins does really help. Having a clear plan of action and helping people in the business understand what role they've got to play in that is really important, because it becomes almost like a cause inside the company. And actually, we want to hit the targets. It's a bit like the church steeple fund, and there's a barometer. Simple devices like that, there's a barometer and reception, so people can see what progress is being made against it. So I'd say, as always with these things, it's really about people. And you've got to bring people with you.
Now, all of your companies embody the success that can be achieved in this in many ways, but for some they may think this is something that's very easy to start, it looks good and there's impetus at the beginning, but quite hard to see through in the long run to keep finishing. I mean, what does a really good sustainability strategy look like?
Well, again, I think you have to look at the core of your business and see how that is changing in the world and how that is going to look in the future. Going on sustainability is going on a journey. I don't think that you can say, and personally I don't think that we will ever be able to say of our company that we are a sustainable company and that we can hang a diploma somewhere on our wall. It's a journey and it's a constant change and it's constant improvement, and so I strongly believe it's the only way forward for any business.
Kelly?
Yeah, I think the key ones you look at, the really good sustainability strategy you look at, I think it's where the whole company is bought into it. So all employees throughout the business, in every function, every department, because I think sustainability as a strategy will touch different employees in different ways, and it's how do you get the buy-in from each individual within a company. So it's almost engaging one mind at a time, we call it at Interface. It's, you know, how does that strategy touch that person's role on a day-to-day basis. So although you start from the top and you have this impetus, you then need it to be picked up by everybody within your business that says, right, we believe in this goal as well, we believe in this vision, this is how I can impact it from my own, you know, particular role within the company.
Jonathan, your view on that? What does a good strategy look like, in a nutshell?
Simple, understandable, achievable. I really like the idea of the journey. Results are important, and if that means bite-sized chunks to start with, if that means modest goals to start with, it doesn't really matter, just get started. It could be a handwritten note on one piece of paper. So I think for bigger businesses, grand visions are, you know, perhaps more common. In other businesses, in all sorts of businesses, just getting started, I think, where that it can feel, I think it can feel a bit like a mountain that needs to be scaled, and it is the first step. Then it's the second step, and build confidence, and build knowledge and understanding, build consensus, would be my advice.
If I just,
Sure.
add, Jonathan, I think the other part is about the communication. It's about constant communication.
Internal
so, yeah,
comms.
as you're going along,
across
you
the
constantly
company,
have to talk about what you're doing, how you're going about it, what you've achieved, maybe things that you haven't achieved, so that everybody knows that you're still trying to make that progress.
Sure. Gentlemen, we're nearly out of time, sadly, but just before we close, sustainability, we've talked about it in some depth. Could I ask for a closing thought from each of you? Nick?
Well, I think sustainability, I compare it to when you're a house owner, you try to maintain your house well, you try to make house improvements. And of course you look there at the future value of your property, but also you enjoy your property at the time of your life. And I think that's what we need to do. We only have one planet, we need to enjoy it today, but we also look at the future.
Kelly?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think sustainability is people understand sustainability, they know it's here. It's something that most businesses are getting involved in adopting. I think sustainability is about improving your business and making it better for the long term. It's about, yes, the cost savings, the employee engagement. It's about innovation. Building innovation also creates competitive advantage, which will make your business stronger and better. So essentially it's about future-proofing your business for the long term.
And Jonathan?
And future-proofing the planet, really. I think we have a responsibility to our children and our grandchildren, which is deadly serious. We are consuming the planet's resources at an unsustainable rate. So that would be the first thing, sort of a moral platform. But actually, when I say it's about people, it's really, customers expect it increasingly. It's become almost like a default. There was a time when it was something a bit different. Not so much anymore. I think to compete,
out if you don't have it. Yes,
to compete, certainly in our industry, it's a requirement, I would say. And then lastly, I would say about people internally, I think it does inspire our people, and it says quite a lot about the kind of organisations that we might be, that sustainability is a serious matter.
Gentlemen, sadly we're at the end of our time, but thank you very much for coming in to take part in this, the second Energy Rethinking show. And thank you too for watching. We hope to see you again very soon.